What if Sony's about to cancel the next generation of consoles? Now that sounds like a wild, unsubstantiated rumor, but this evidence is starting to hide in plain sight. Okay, well, everyone is debating the PlayStation 5's recent price hikes, and it's ridiculous, I agree, and it's shifting sales momentum. They might be missing the real story. What if Sony isn't just trying to survive this console generation, but is being forced to quietly kill the entire console cycle as we know it? What's up, gamers? Alonso here, and welcome back to Level Up Gaming, where we break down everything, and I do mean everything happening in the gaming world. This isn't about one bad quarter or a simple price adjustment. This is about a fundamental shift rumbling through the entire tech industry. A change so massive, it's forcing companies like Sony to make decisions that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how a crisis in the world of artificial intelligence is reaching out and scrambling the future of PlayStation. I'll connect the dots between executive statements, market data, and the quiet casualties that suggest the PlayStation 6 you're expecting might never arrive. Not in the way that you think, okay? To get why the future of PlayStation might be in chaos, we have to look away from gaming for a second and talk about the single biggest revolution in tech today: artificial intelligence. Over the last couple of years, AI has gone from a niche concept to the main engine of the tech economy. Companies are pouring billions upon billions into building massive AI data centers. And the one thing those data centers crave, more than anything, is memory. Dora likes memory. But this isn't the same memory that's in your PS5. They need a specialized super fast type of RAM called high bandwidth memory, or HBM for friends. This stuff is incredibly hard and expensive to make. The world's three biggest memory suppliers, Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron, are relocating their production lines to chase the insane profits of this AI boom. And that creates a huge ripple effect, because HBM is a form of DRAM. Every factory that gets converted to produce these high-margin AI chips is a factory that's no longer making the conventional DRAM and NAND flash that goes into our consoles, PCs, and phones. The result: the supply of regular memory tightens and prices shoot skyward, sky high. We aren't talking about small cyclical bumps. In late 2025 and early 2026, analysts saw DRAM and NAND, or NAND, prices surge dramatically, with some forecasting staggering quarter-over-quarter increases of 90 to 95% for DRAM. DRAM. According to a forecast from Gartner in April 2026, annual prices for NAND flash were projected to surge by 234% year over year. This isn't a short-term blip. Memory manufacturers have pivoted hard, and their capacity is committed. Some analysts have called this new era of high memory prices memflation. And it signals that the age of cheap, abundant memory that powered the last few console generations is on shaky ground. And the casualties are already starting to show up. Tell me you haven't seen it. The first and most obvious casualty of this memory crunch appears to be Valve's Steam Deck. In early 2026, after users noticed the popular handheld was consistently out of stock, Valve put up an official notice on its store page. Steam Deck OLED may be out of stock intermittently in some regions due to memory and storage shortages. Around the same time, Valve has also confirmed that its more affordable 256GB LCD model was no longer in production, and once the existing stock is gone, it's gone. Like, for good. In an environment of rising component costs, a budget-friendly model becomes much harder to sustain. Valve is a smaller hardware player, but they aren't the only ones feeling the heat. The whole industry is watching Nintendo's successor to the Switch. Before even launch, reports were swirling about the pressure Nintendo was under from rising component costs. In May 2026, after announcing a $50 price hike for the Switch 2, Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa apologized to customers, stating it was challenging to bear the rising costs over a long period. He even admitted that the price increase wouldn't cover all cost increases, citing the surge in memory prices as a key factor that will likely continue and worsen, by the way. These aren't the moves of companies in a normal market. This is what it looks like when a global supply crisis starts hitting home. This brings us back to Sony. While smaller players are feeling the pressure, Sony is facing a perfect storm. The company's own financial results paint a complex picture. According to sales data from March 2026, the PS5 has sold approximately 91.52 million units in its first 65 months. However, at the same point in its life cycle, the PS4 had sold around 94.89 million units, putting the PS5 more than 3 million units behind its predecessor on a launch-aligned basis. This slowdown in momentum is happening even before the full impact of recent price hikes, which saw the cost of the PS5 rise in several markets in early 2026. At a similar point in its life, you could find a new PS4 for much less than a PS5 or what it costs today. Sony's trapped. Sales momentum is slowing. Instead of the traditional mid-cycle price cut to boost demand, they've been forced into a price hike just to protect their profit margins. In a financial call, President and CEO Hiroki Totoki acknowledged the reality of the situation, noting that as memory prices rise, the manufacturer cost of consoles also increases. This is the dilemma that puts the traditional PlayStation 6 in question. A next-gen console, by definition, has to deliver a massive leap in performance. That means more and faster everything, especially memory, which results in price hikes. Yay! A hypothetical PS6 would likely need a huge pool of next-gen GDDR7 RAM and a giant cutting-edge SSD. In the current market, the bill of materials, the cost of just the raw components for such a machine would be astronomical. Some speculative estimates have placed a potential bomb at over $750, which could mean the console would have to sell for close to $1,000 just for Sony to break even. Who's going to buy a $1,000 PlayStation? That's a question haunting executives in Tokyo. The fundamental economic model of the console industry, sell powerful hardware at a subsidized price and make money on games, starts to break when the hardware cost spirals out of control. By the way, don't even get me started on game prices nowadays. So if Sony can't afford to build a traditional PS6 and we can't afford to buy it, what happens next? Before we get into the radical new strategy that Sony already seems to be putting in place, let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to know. Is a PS6 still a guarantee, or is Sony about to change the game entirely? While you're down there, hitting that like and subscribe button really helps us make more deep dives just like this one, and maybe making a friend or two. Faced with this impossible economic reality, Sony isn't panicking. Okay? It appears to be pivoting. If you look closely at their public statements and strategic moves, a clear plan B seems to emerge. One designed for a world where expensive, dedicated gaming hardware might not be the center of their business anymore. The first major clue came from Sony's president, COO, and CFO, Hiroki Totoki. In an investor call, he laid out a huge shift in philosophy. In the past, he said, we wanted to popularize the console, and a first-party title's main purpose was to make the console popular. He then explained that this was changing. If you have strong first-party content, he continued, not only on our console but also other platforms like computers, a first-party game can be grown with multi-platform, and that can help operating profit to improve. Let me be clear about what that means. A top Sony executive is openly saying that the historical job of their biggest games, selling PlayStation consoles, is being supplemented by a new goal, maximizing profit by selling those games on PC. For decades, exclusives were the sacred assets used to lock players into the PlayStation ecosystem. Now, they're being viewed as profit drivers to be sold wherever gamers are, especially on PC. This is a way to de-risk the business from its dependency on selling hardware. If they can make hundreds of millions selling their blockbusters on Steam, it matters a little less if PS5 hardware sales are slowing down. The second piece of the puzzle is Sony's own messaging about the PS5's life cycle. In early 2024, Senior Vice President Naomi Matsuoka stated that the PS5 was entering the latter stage of its life cycle. This comment sent a ripple through the industry, as it seemed to imply a PS6 was on the horizon. But it was also followed by more recent cautious statements. When asked directly about the PS6 release, timing, and price in May 2026, Hiroki Totoki stated, "We have not yet decided on at what timing we will launch the new console or at what prices. We would like to really observe and follow the situation." This isn't confusion. It could be a strategy. The PS5 as a piece of static hardware is in its latter stage, but the PlayStation platform might be getting prepared for a much longer journey. This is a world where the PS5 has one of the longest lifespans in PlayStation history, perhaps getting a Pro model as a final iteration, while the real growth engine becomes selling software on PC. The traditional 7-year console cycle of boom and bust could be smoothed out into a continuous platform-agnostic revenue stream. So let me bring this all together. The PlayStation 6 that you might have in your head, a sleek, powerful box that offers a massive generational leap for around $500, is facing an economic crisis. It may be killed not by a single bad decision, but by a tidal wave of economic and technological change. The AI boom has triggered a memory market squeeze that has fundamentally challenged the console business model. The evidence is all there. Go and look for it. First, the memory market is under unprecedented pressure, with prices for consumer-grade components soaring as manufacturers chase lucrative AI contracts. Second, we're already seeing the impact on consumer hardware, with companies like Valve and Nintendo openly struggling with component shortages and being forced to raise prices. Third, Sony's own sales have recently slipped behind its predecessor's pace, while rising hardware costs have pushed them into price hikes instead of cuts. And finally, Sony's actively executing a strategy that de-emphasizes hardware dependency in favor of a multi-platform PC-focused future for its biggest games. What might come next isn't a PlayStation 6 in the traditional sense. It might be the PlayStation ecosystem, a world where the PS5 remains the flagship console for years to come, a world where major first-party games launch on PC much faster than before, a world where Sony's primary business is no longer selling you a new box every 7 years, but selling you games and services on whatever device you happen to own. A world where the PS5 game library actually reaches the density that the PS4, PS3, PS2, and PS1 libraries had, or the quality that they had, for that matter. Can you name at least 50 PS5 games that have been like right there on the top? I challenge you, go for it in the comments. Hit me, 50 games right now, let's go. Ready for another level? Hit this next video right here, and let's keep going. By the way, Sony may be forced to cancel the very idea of the console generation as we know it. The name of the game is shifting from hardware revolutions to software profits and platform stability. The PlayStation 5 won't just be the bridge to the next generation. It might just be the last console of its kind. Hit the like button like it's a final round in Ranked. Come on, and keep being awesome just because you're you. Subscribe for more gaming industry coverage, discussions, and everything happening in gaming right now. Maybe a little bit of teasing, who knows. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and I'll catch you in the next one. PlayStation.